then that space in between the planets is what the Toltecs call the Nahual. Now, what gives life to the Nahual, which is light, and what gives life to the Tonal, which is matter, is what they call intent. And intent is a force that moves everything and put everything together. I call it life. The Toltecs know that the space in between planets there was not empty. It's full of light. There's no space in the entire universe of change of universe who is empty. In between atoms, in between stars, in between planets, always exists light.
What the quantum hologram is, it's based on the well-known fact that matter emits and reabsorbs quanta of energy, photons, at the most basic level of nature. And that those photons have a non-local interconnection, regardless of where they go thereafter. They are interconnected. Take the quantum emissions from any body of matter, from a human to a chair to anything, that you study it as a group, it is carrying unique information in the event history of that object. Wow, this is a rather fundamental discovery, because it is saying that information at the quantum level in nature is as important as energy itself. What the physicists tell us is that when particles are entangled in a process at the subatomic level, and they go across the universe from each other, should they maintain a correlation, a coherence. And if something happens to one particle, it is instantaneously known or recognized by the other particle, regardless of where they are in the universe. That's instantaneous communication. That's called non-locality.
How would one experience that subjectively? What is your subjective experience of non-locality? Many people experience it as an out-of-body state, an out-of-body situation. We've heard about this when we think of a near-death experience. People seem to float out or perceive themselves to be some way distant from the physical body. The question comes up, is there then a separate body or a second body? Many people have a philosophic opinion that there is a spirit body or a soul. The physicists would reflect back and say, well, we don't have any measurement or proof of that, so the in-between road might be a habit. I'm in the habit of feeling myself in this body, and when I become non-locally aware, a near-death experience or an out-of-body experience, as a habit, I think I have a body. But perhaps it really isn't. Perhaps I am more than that, more than the concepts of a body. If we can become aware of information that's not available to the physical senses, it's available only if we are non-locally aware. Something in the future, something in the past, something distant in space from us, something that we couldn't know with our physical senses, and that information comes to us, therein lies the proof. How else could we possibly know this but that we were more than our physical bodies?
In quantum physics, not only is it not considered to be crazy, it's considered to be a way to understand the nature of the real reality, the so-called real reality that we're in. And it's used every day. In fact, a whole new field is developed based upon this idea called quantum computers and quantum computation. And in the years to come, we're going to see more and more of this new idea emerging, and parallel realities are even going into them and taking a photograph and bringing it back out again. That may not be science fiction. That may be something we're going to be doing soon. So I think right now this is an exciting time to be thinking about the relationship of mind and consciousness to quantum physics.
So there is the ability for energy to exist outside of time and space. The spiritual realm essentially has no time frame. The time frame exists here on Earth. The spiritual realm exists outside of a time frame. It's very hard to interrelate what happens in the spiritual realm and what happens in the earthly realm. So then people ask about a life between lives regression. They'll say, I desire to have an LBL regression, but which between life am I going to visit?
Well, one alternative is to say that in alternative realities or worlds or universes even, and that these are there but they're parallel and invisible to us, because once we've chosen to see reality one way, it gets blocked from us to see this other way. It's like blinders that get put on. We can't see the other reality. But in the other reality, the same thing is going on. We can't see the world that we're in, because in the other reality we're seeing that world. And so these parallel realities are also all occurring simultaneously. Now that idea sounds like almost hokum, and I can't blame anybody for saying, oh, it's crazy, how can you have so many realities?
When we travel into the spiritual realm, into the between life, in an LBL regression, we basically, all of our between lives collapse into one another, if you will, and we step into what we often call now time. So we're learning about our spiritual experiences based on what is happening presently in our earthly life. The spirit world is the spirit world in the sense that we have many belief structures that say the spirit world is segmented. There's a positive place and a not so positive place. That kind of information has never come through in thousands of life between life regressions. And so the spirit world is open to anyone and everyone. We are not blocked at a certain point and disallowed entry depending on what we have or haven't done in our life. The spirit world does appear different, regression to regression. For some souls, particularly for souls who are not of high level of experience, there is almost a meeting place that exists. It reminds me of a train or a bus station where when the soul has left the body, and it comes in to spend time as it's crossing over, there's often a sort of a meeting place where the soul can be met by loved ones, where the soul is assisted in orienting, in adjusting to being in the spiritual realm. It's almost slowing down the process of moving into the spiritual realm.
We have what we call focus levels, and we refer to them as focus levels, different states of consciousness, as numbers. And we simply do that so there's no attachment, you know, through words or whatever. It's just levels. We found a place we call Focus 27. Now, my father refers to this as the park. And it was a place he found in his explorations, which is very much like Earth in a lot of ways. You can actually feel the grass and the trees and everything. And it feels very real, but he called it a park. And we found that there's a healing and regeneration center there. There's a planning center there. It's just, it's an incredible place, if you will.
Well, Focus 27 is a state that many different systems and religions would refer to as heaven. It is certainly one heaven, state where of great joy. It's a state that offers an opportunity for amazing learnings and insight into, and not only insight into, but participation in planning how things might unfold both here on the earth, in individual lives, in other parts of the physical and non-physical world.
We all have soul groups consisting of 3 to 10 or 12 members that are together because we all have something in common. And that's a good question to ask. What is it that brings you all together? What are you doing together in the spirit world? And usually people are very clear about that. And it may be that they're doing work together, or they may be working on similar lessons together.
Went through, immediately my guides were there. Immediately. I didn't go into any chambers, I didn't have any cleansing. My guides were like, what's up, we're glad you're here. And it was literally like, sit down and have a powwow. That was what my whole entire Life Between Life session consisted of. The therapist that I was working with had a lot of interaction with my guides. Apparently they were very high vibrational, enlightened teachers, and they shared a lot of information with her. I kind of acted as a channel to share that information, to have it come through. And most of the information that was covered was specific stuff for me. No predictions of any sort, but getting in, connecting to what was the intention that I had stated for myself. What did I want to experience? What did I come here for?
And the first person that appeared to my right was my son Scott. And Scott was like my soulmate. He was a real old soul. He was 27 years old when he passed away, but had lived such a full life, and it was just really powerful to have such a vivid feeling of being there with him.
Even though nothing frightening ever happens there, souls always feel a sense of intimidation, I guess I would say, when they're called before what we have termed a council of elders or a council of wise beings. And their guide usually accompanies them, and they are almost always in a building or a space that seems very formal. And a group of 5, 6, or maybe even 10 elders come in and they ask questions, and always in the most loving way the person is given some suggestions about how they might proceed as further in the next life and how they can do better. And it's a very serious meeting, but it's not punitive or judgmental in the way that we might think.
The coordinating body of the spiritual realm is comprised of souls that have finished their incarnation on earth. They've progressed to a particular level. They then work at, we use these words higher, lower, and it's hard not to use those words. They work at a higher level of wisdom, but they are ultimately coordinated by a highest level of wisdom that we all choose to label in different ways. But as we progress as a soul, we fine-tune our interest area, we fine-tune our abilities. And then we can, in fact, progress to the point where we don't spend a great deal of time with our cluster group any longer, and we then can spend primarily time with a group that is much more specialized.
Just before I left the soul group, I felt like somebody had placed a hand on my forehead. And I, again felt this amazing energy, and I said, I think they're just knocking in a little extra knowledge into my head and just I'm being healed of anything that I needed to be healed of, as far as some of the experiences that I had experienced in my current incarnation.
Do you believe in God? Do I have a particular spiritual or religious orientation? And what I tell people is that it's all one and the same. That the highest level of spirit or wisdom or love or advancement is the highest level that we can call the universe, the Tao, we can call it God, Great Spirit, There are many different terms for this.
We obviously stay very neutral with all of this, because what happens when you come here is you are exploring a lot of your belief systems, and that's a big part of it. And if you find out through experience that your belief system can become a known, that's wonderful, that's beautiful, that's part of the process.
And all of a sudden I looked up and literally saw this bomb drop. And it looked exactly the way you see it depicted in history books and in pictures and on television. And it literally came down like a giant mushroom cloud, and this smoke just started barreling towards us. And I think when you experience trauma, you experience it in slow motion, because it seemed like it was taking a very long period of time to unfold, when in essence I think it was probably 3 seconds, you know. But then everything around me was burning, was in flames. And I remember grabbing, I had a small child, and I grabbed this small child, and there was fire everywhere, and the only way to not burn, to be afflicted by the fire, was to get into this water.
It was an arranged marriage, 17. He gave me everything, loved me, tatted me, presents galore, and I just did not like him, and I turned my back on him, ultimately causing him to later kill me.
You believe in life after death. You believe that you come back, or you believe in reincarnation. Well, then you better think about how you're leaving this planet if you believe you're going to be reincarnated. Because you better be careful what you might come back to, what you create.
Yeah, I think in China, the idea was that when the Chinese think about time, or think about who they are and what they are, they keep their ancestors in mind. Whereas in our culture, it's the last thing we think about is who and what we came from. Most of us don't even care that our ancestors came from this country or that country. We're Americans. We don't. Our ancestors are dead and buried. We don't care.
Regression therapy is utilizing trance or utilizing hypnosis to guide a client to go backward in time, to sort of go through what we might call age regression. So typically for a long, long time, centuries probably, psychiatrists have guided their clients into age regression in this life, looking for lost memory, looking for trauma-oriented periods of time to try to do healing work. So it all is predicated on the belief that our soul has continuity. So we're going back to mystical belief structure, to belief structure that existed prior to approximately 2,000 years ago in most cultures of the earth, where the belief is that our soul has continuity. So we live and we will live again. It's the whole concept of reincarnation.
I was in Europe in the 1600s. I was in my 20s. My name was Sarah. I was living a rather lonely life in the village, and just doing craft work, needlework, and wasn't married at the time, and that was my beginnings, basically looking down, seeing what I was wearing, and the description and the picture just unfolded.
I remember a woman who was a little boy in a past life, and it was during wartime in Germany, I think, and she was cowering under a truck, and she could see the puddles of rainwater and the boots of the soldiers, and she was really frightened, and all the emotions came through. She could really feel and re-experience what it felt like to be that little boy and being very afraid. I think it's an important and wonderful experience for a client to experience themselves from a larger perspective than just one lifetime. It allows them to experience different points of view, to feel what it's like to be a different gender or a different walk of life, to experience the kinds of things that were important in different eras. And it really gives them a wider sense of perspective about who they are, and also allows us to understand other people more easily and with less judgment.
The second life that we were in, we were monks, and we lived in the same monastery. And he was more like my teacher. He opened up different areas of religious perspective, beliefs. He introduced me to new things from a very theological place. The only way I can describe it is it was as pure love as I think you could feel. It was really comfortable and really loving and really pure, and our paths were just anchored, and our paths were very deep in our conviction to God and in our conviction to service.
We got into this water, and I couldn't swim, and my child couldn't swim. And basically we drowned. And like I kept reenacting that, the drowning and losing my child. And I would wake up like gasping. So when I went into this state of hypnosis and I relived it, it was very painful and very traumatic, because it was even realer in this state of hypnosis than in the dream state, because I was alert. You know, it was now present day time.
So many people kind of get into that mindset of like, well, who was I in a past life? And for me, that question never really rang true as something that was relevant to who I was or how I was experiencing life today. What rang true to me and what's gotten at in the book and the whole sort of life in between lives things was a clear sense of who you are as a soul, independent of your current incarnation, your current manifestation as a body.
The second one would be Italy. I was in an Italian village. I was married. We had a lot of ups and downs, and so our marriage was very tumultuous. And he was a butcher. I was a homemaker. And it was very rough times during that time. It was, I think, in the 1700s, if I recall. And so lessons, again, learned. I related that person to possibly being the person that I was first married to, that I was married to for a number of years. And I had left that marriage. And it was a very therapeutic time for me, because it really opened me up to the possibilities of growing instead of stagnating.
The most vivid one experientially was a whale incarnation. The most sort of vivid like snapshots from that experience were surfacing and seeing humans on boats that were whale hunters, whale fishermen, whatever you want to call them, and just sort of looking at them as they were, you know, killing other whales or trying to kill me or trying to kill other whales in a pod, and having this very sort of calm sensation about the whole thing, like almost a little bit confused about why they were so panicked, what was going on, where were those feelings coming from, where was the aggression, where does, you know, very much this doesn't really quite make sense. But at the same time, even knowing that I was, you know, quote unquote in danger, but not necessarily any sense of fear whatsoever.
Mine was I was a trapeze artist in the circus, and this man was also there. He was a lion tamer. I fell off the trapeze. He was the first one to come to rescue me. I lost the use of my legs. Fell madly in love with him. And ultimately we just had a really great life from that. He just took care of me for the rest of my life.
When we incarnate again, we bring with us some of the previous experiences of past lives. we're often not aware that that is what we're bringing with us. And so there are many times when, as humans, we have recognition. We may meet someone and just know, beyond the shadow of a doubt, that we have met them before, yet we have no literal explanation for that. We also bring with us the particular areas of learning of our soul that still, we might say, need work, need progression, and somehow will be guided through those automatically outside of our awareness. So I believe we bring some, if not all, of our previous experiences with us outside of our awareness and continue to focus on some of those issues.
When you go through a past life, you always reflect to see if there's anything, any learnings or anything that you could see as far as who is in that past life, who might be somebody in your present life. And I related that to actually my first marriage to my husband that I was first married to.
At this moment, the quantum holographic theory can easily explain the experiences of reincarnation. And in fact, it explains better than classical notion of reincarnation. It explains better why many people feel that they are reincarnations of the same person. Cleopatra, Ptolemy, Jesus, whomever. There are many people believe they're reincarnations of the person. Well, with quantum holographic theory, that's quite possible. It's just information that you can access.
I know that it all makes sense. You know, this is not just a happenstance. You know, I didn't just born and I'm just not going to die. You know, I was born, I chose, I created, I co-created, I came in with a purpose. I picked the people to be my parents for a reason. I took the paths that I'd chosen because of. I came here to continue what I didn't finish. I'm real anchored in that.
Sometimes what I love the most is, and I hear this many times in Life Between Lives regressions, the counsel will say to the client, literally in this manner, lighten up. And I think as humans, as incarnate souls, we often need to lighten up. And when the client wants to hear from their counsel how they are doing as a soul, often the client thinks they're not doing well in their life. And then the counsel will say, you're doing great. Just keep going. You're doing wonderfully.
Because Teotihuacan is like a map where it's guiding you humans step by step, letting go all the reasons why they believe they are not God, until they are put the whole integrity together and they find out that they always were God, that they was born perfect and that they are perfect. And from that point of view, you can see that everybody else is perfect. All the humans around the world, they are perfect. They just don't know that they are, because the whole belief system guides them to a different direction.
We'd like to share a piece of this rock with so many of the countries throughout the world. We hope that this will be a symbol of what our feelings are, what the feelings of the Apollo program are, and a symbol of mankind that we can live in peace and harmony in the future.
For many years, I thought a new age of enlightenment was approaching, that delving into these areas, trying to understand the deeper nature of our perceptions, intuitive information, quantum information, and I still think that is the way to the future.
As a soul, do we always have free will to make choice about anything? Absolutely yes. And are we fallible? Do we sometimes make, we might say, not the best choices? Yes, of course. Are we advised by our guides and teachers from a higher level? Yes, we are advised. But we still have the ability to make decisions.
Basically, I believe that we are here to be co-creators with God. We are here to experience oneness. We are here to experience joy. Whether or not you choose to carry all the wisdom and all the knowledge and the knowing of everything, I don't really think is that important. I believe that if you're happy and you're truly happy and you're living your life exactly as you want it to be, you're doing it.
Because everybody in the world can do their best. Everyone. We can see other people and we can judge them that they don't do their best, but how do you know? You hardly know if you're doing your best. How can you judge other people that they do or they don't do their best? Only they know. And it's their life. It's their problem, really. The only thing that we do is that we give them the tools that they can find themselves, that they can have more awareness.
In the Australian Aboriginal point of view, they see the creatures evolving through dream. That one creature, which is more primitive, and appears as a result of the Great Spirit dreaming for its environment to occur so it can be there. That creature begins to dream of an environment in which it can't live. That environment is beyond what it can do. It dreams of it. And as a result of the dream appearing, there's genetic changes and such that a new creature evolves which can exist in a new environment. Now, while this may seem like a fairy tale or just simply a story, in quantum physics we're always dealing with possibilities, and we're always looking at how, now currently in our current thinking, we're looking how future possibilities and past possibilities could be coming together to produce transformation in the present moment. And that's a whole new idea, that somehow what has not happened can come back and influence what is happening. And as a result, lead to something what we would experience as actually happening.
From this perspective, when we pass from the body, which isn't really happening, what's going to happen is we're going to wake up and remember this funny dream we had. And this will be the dream we're having, because that's the true nature of reality.
I believe that we can have anything we want, that it's all around us. And we can create all of those desires. We are co-creators, and when we see who we really are and we remember that, and we stand in that truth, that we have access to anything that we desire.
I was one of the pioneers, as you're well aware, in exploring parapsychology and psychic information, and realized that we were on to something real. It was real, even though we couldn't explain it. But it's taken 35 years to find an acceptable explanation in quantum phenomena.
Well, you can see that it's unknown because you don't ask. Once that you ask, then you know, and the unknown becomes known. Then what we have in the mind can be known if we ask, if we learn to listen. Then the unknown becomes known. What is unknowable, you never will know with the language that we have, with the symbols that we have.
Even when it doesn't make sense to me these days, I trust the universe more and more. And the world doesn't have to explain itself to me. And when it looks really bad from the outside, I have more faith that a person's life is unfolding in just the way that it needs to for their soul's growth and learning. And that thought gives me a lot of comfort.
Many of us spend so much of our lives worrying about what's going to happen tomorrow, or just wallowing in things that have happened in the past instead of being in the now. And I think they can learn a lot from just being in the moment and experiencing life and having joy in their life.
As you expand in awareness, what you discover is that when it comes to creation, that one of the things we really can do is create heaven on earth now.
I would say that we are evolving into an intelligent species that has a true understanding of how interconnected everything is and how connected we are to everything, to the earth and to spirit.
And so I think that leads to looking at what is the point? Why do we come into body? You know, why am I or anyone else incarnate at this time? And I think the absolute bottom line is we are here in body for the purpose of progression, both our own progression and the progression of other souls and how we impact other souls.
And yes, they can do better, but in order to do better, they need to have more awareness, to be more aware. If they have more awareness, the best will be better and better and better.
There's no ultimate destiny because the universe has been created in such a way that we can create new destinies. And I think our ultimate destiny would be to recognize that we are the creators of our destiny.
In my opinion, only by using the best of our rational and our intuitive faculties and the best of our scientific technologies and protocols will we ever be able to tease out of nature these secrets that are very elusive right now.